Hello, everybody. We're continuing our conversation about Harkness Classroom in a mathematics setting. And the topic of today's video is something that people ask me often once again about is how do you start? Where's the starting point in terms of the icebreakers? How do you begin setting the culture of around the table, everyone participating, and so on. It doesn't happen instantaneously. It takes time, but there are certain activities that I would recommend as a starting point. Maybe introducing to students who are completely new to it, and the younger you start, the better the outcome will be. So I would like to showcase a number of things that are good examples of what a good icebreaker could be. So I have them listed as 1, 2, 3, and I'll go over each of those in a bit of an elaboration. So the first one is what I call a birthday arrangement, and the task is usually of the following. When you have your class, you can tell them, okay, now I would like you to sort yourselves from, for let's say, whatever your birthday is, just a month and a date, not the year. You don't need that. So for example, if you're born on January 1st, you should be at the beginning of the line. And if you're born on December 31st, you need to be at the end of the line. But the tricky part about it is that no talking is allowed. So they need to somehow communicate with each other without saying words. Anything else goes. I mean, they can get pretty creative and write things on the board, but that usually takes a little bit of time for them to get to it. Maybe don't give them whiteboard pens available so they don't have any tools to do so. So they just need to somehow explain this to each other, and then by the end line up from the earliest birthday to the latest birthday in a year. So that's the task. And you'd be surprised at how interesting this task becomes and unfolds. And you can right away see who the leaders in the room are, because they will take control of the process, and students who just decide to usually like to follow or stay away from leading. Could be a good insight. The point of this kind of a task is that it showcases the ability of verbally explaining something versus not being able to do so, but still be able to communicate and do produce a line with a meaning in terms of the beginning and the end. And it pretty much always gets done. I don't think I've ever seen a time when it's been implemented that hasn't been completed. It takes a little bit of time, but then there's going to be a method that they will figure out, and then it will start forming. So this is example of icebreaker number 1. It's also a good idea to talk about it after it's unfolded around the table, and this also gets students moving, which is also a good idea if we've been sitting for too long. The second example of the icebreaker is what I call a story with a ball. And again, I've used it many times in many settings, and it works really well. The setup is the following. As people are seated around the table, a teacher should bring some kind of maybe a tennis ball or something that can be rolled on the table. If you don't have a table as one big table, but people maybe are seated around with using individual desks or larger desks, but there isn't one big surface that you can roll the ball on, just gently passing it to one person is fine. For that, I would suggest bringing something bigger, maybe like a volleyball, or like a rubber bigger kid's ball that can be gently thrown to the next person. And the idea is this. One person begins with a story. Once upon a time, and then they get creative. And then they say a sentence or two, and then they pass the ball to the next person, but what they have to do is they have to name the person who they're passing the ball to. And that's a very, very key part of this, is that it emphasizes the naming of your colleague, of the person who is seated around the table with you. And what happens when everybody's gone through, everybody goes once, the last person to be left once everybody goes will have to add to the story and finish it, hopefully. And then they have to try to be able to tell it from the beginning, and then the others can chime in to help. And that's how that icebreaker goes. Also very successful, emphasizes things like naming each other by name, carefully listening to what everybody else is saying, trying to work on your memory, trying to remember who's gone when and what did each person contribute. And then be able to keep all that in your mind in case you're the one who is the last one. Also keep remembering who's gone, who didn't go, hasn't gone yet, so that you can pass the ball to the person who hasn't gone yet. And also emphasizing as well is that everybody needs to share something, and everybody's contribution is valued, and there's time for everybody to do so. So that's the story with the ball. And then the third one is a discussion about a discussion. And what I mean by that, there's two distinct questions that I like asking when we talk about discussion about discussion. There's two sides to this story. One of it is the question that goes something along the lines of what are some of the positive aspects about conducting a good, productive discussion. That's one avenue of progress here. The second one will be almost opposite. The question will be something along the lines of what are some of the things that hinder the progress of a good discussion? And there's usually time to think about both of them, and then the sharing for number one, some of the positive elements, and then some of the hindering elements. And then what usually is very good to do once this is unfolding, once the fire is burning, if you refer to the previous video, a teacher should be taking notes of what the students are saying, or maybe even better, writing it on the board as they're saying them, so that later on this can be used to build your classroom etiquette, your classroom Harkness skills that we talked about earlier, where I showcased one sample document. But again, it's just a sample one. But when it's generated by the students, just as it is in this activity here that we're talking about, it's much more powerful, of course, because it's trained by the students, much alike like the bricks we talked about that they're bringing to the table. And these are the bricks you're trying to sort out. And there you go. So with this activity, you can get two things. You can enhance their understanding of what a good productive discussion is and what are some of the elements that are making it less productive, and at the same time producing your Harkness skills etiquette list, which is very powerful, and then it can be used to hold students accountable for later on as they are progressing with Harkness. So those are the three elements three different icebreakers I want to talk about. There's plenty more that people can come up with, but in my experience, these three have been really good, and they've accomplished what they are set to accomplish. They can be done in one class, in 3 different classes, and a combination of 2 of them. I do like to do one of the first 2, either the story in the ball, or the sorting by of the birthday, and then a discussion about a discussion. And that is really good because you can use the first part as an example of what worked and what didn't work to build your list of things for the third question, meaning what are some of the good things and what are some of the hindering things. So that's the view on this. Hopefully you found this one useful. Again, feel free to send comments and questions. The email will appear right after the video. And until next time, take care and bye-bye.